I was born in Copenhagen, Denmark, to an Italian father from Naples, Italy, and a black mother from Alabama. And I have a very particular story which led me to do Gospel Hill, because when I came to this country at 5 years old, I was prejudiced against. People didn't like me. And it wasn't just white people, it was black people as well. I was really unhappy with the fact that people would judge me by the color of my skin. People would either walk to the other side of the street, or the old ladies who were walking with their pocketbook would clutch them tighter, immediately giving me the idea that there was something wrong with me, or that I was a thief, or I was going to rob them, or something else. And that's the moment in my movie, the moment with Danny Glover and Julia Stiles, where he says, give me your hand.
You see that? It's not your doing, but you'll never in life understand.
That's an example of how we live in life. Now, she may be able to understand the differences, but to be in one's skin and have that happen to you, I don't know if anyone could ever understand what that feels like. For me, I always wanted to scream, I'm half white, but who's going to believe me? And then I tell her my name is Giancarlo Esposito. Don't mean nothing to somebody who looks at me and sees this brown skin. To me, you're still just a nigger. So I got angry. I was pissed. I became an angry young black man, and I started to move away from it when I started to meet Spike. But Spike would he was radical and provocateur, and he wanted people to just, fight up and stand up against the white man.
You almost knocked me down, man. The word is excuse me.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Not only did you knock me down, you stepped on my brand new white Air Jordans that I just bought.
Yo, man, your Jordans are fucked up.
Damn, man. You might as well throw them shits out. Them shits is broke.
Man, they looked at the good before he messed up. He did this shit on purpose, man. He was even talking about your mama.
But it was always our argument. Well, what am I going to do if we have a war in this country, revolution between white and black? Because half of me inside, even if I can pass for black completely, half of me inside my system and my body is Italian. I'm a Guinea. I speak with my hands. I'm very animated. So what am I going to do? What army will I fight on? Gospel Hill is a story of a civil rights leader who was assassinated 40 years ago in a very small town in the South, in South Carolina. His murder has yet to be solved, and 40 years later, the sheriff who looked the other way and the son of the civil rights leader who marched with him, they're both left behind. And the sheriff, facing his own mortality, wants to find out finally who actually killed Paul Malcolm. And that is all set against the backdrop of the 40th anniversary of his death, coming up to the 40th anniversary celebration of his death, and the gentrification of the black section of town called Gospel Hill in a little small town of Julia. Danny Glover plays John Malcolm, the son of Paul, who's left behind, who's being urged by his wife Angela Bassett, Sarah Malcolm, to stand up once again and speak out against this impending gentrification. I was asked to play a role in the movie. The script came to me by an old acquaintance that I had worked with on Homicide: Life on the Street. And I said, I'd love to play the role of Dr. Palmer. And he called back and said, well, why not play John Malcolm? I said, well, that's not me. John Malcolm I see as someone who is much bigger physically, much darker, and someone who's older. And he said, tell me more. So I started talking about the script in detail. So he got off the phone with me and he pondered it a while and called the actual writers of the script. And then he called me back and said, is there anything else you'd like to do on this movie? You seem to know so much about how it should play out. And I said, well, if it were my film, I would, if I were directing it, I would feel more comfortable, and I would rewrite it only with the original writer to preserve his original intention. And they called me back and said, please. So I started to work with the writer for a year and a half on the phone, went down to Mount Holly, North Carolina, stayed in his attic, worked with him for a week or two when we finally got it to a place where I thought it was ready to put the final touches on it. And then I went away and said, well, now if I'm going to direct this movie and I'm going to play Dr. Palmer in it, I need to go and find the money, which makes me the producer as well, and that's what I did.
What's that?
A petition. And you signing it.
No, I ain't.
And I knew that if I got one A-list actor to become a part of the movie, that everything else would fall into place. So I went after Angela Bassett. She took about 2 or 3 weeks to respond, but when she did, she had read it and she loved it and wanted to play this character. From there, I went to Danny Glover and said, don't you want to work with Angela again? And you worked with her in Bozeman and Lena years ago in an Athol Fugard play in Africa, and got him to get interested, although he kept saying no. I finally convinced him to do it when I had a few dollars to pay him and a very loose schedule. Then I went to Julia Stiles and Samuel L. Jackson. I needed to weigh the cast on both sides, white and black, and I needed to make sure that it wouldn't be labeled a black movie, that the film would be looked at as a crossover film. And even after that, Fox bought the DVD rights to the movie, but the producer who represented me at Fox had told me that it was they were buying the feature presentation of the movie. He was eventually left the film. He told me a lie and some other people, but that's the way he operated. So I was left with a non-feature release for the movie, but with a really fantastic cast to realize, and Fox already put in $1.5 million to be able to make the movie. I raised the other $2.5 million to do it, and we were off and running. Well, people have responded to the film in a very beautiful way. It started in Memphis, Tennessee, when we were invited to the Memphis Independent Film Festival, and we were not even in the competition for the festival at all, and they created an award for Gospel Hill. And for me, that really said something, because we were just a special screening, and they created an award called the Soul of Southern Film Award. So, and that's I went to visit the Lorraine once again. I had done it several times before, but this time I was invited out onto the terrace and was able to stand where Martin was shot. It was a very, very deep experience for me, because he's been one of my idols and heroes forever and ever and ever. And of course, the story is an amalgamation of Martin and Medgar Evers and Malcolm X. So it trickled down from there. From Memphis, we went to Fort Lauderdale. We won in Santa Fe. We won Film for Change Award. And then we won in Sedona just 2 weeks ago. We won Best Film and Best Director. So it's been received really beautifully. So that led me to realize a screening in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of Barack Obama. Invited Barack. He sent his chief of staff there. He couldn't make it himself. But the film is all about change and healing and reconciliation. I'm hoping that people walk away understanding that the haters and the hated can come together and come to grips with what happened, especially those people who still have racist energy about them and want to heal but don't know how. And one of the favorite moments in the movie for me is when Jack Herod says, do you think, his son says, what do you want to feel, Dad? And Jack says, do you think I like feeling this way? And his son says, what do you want to feel, Dad? He says, I want to feel something else. Now you watch this man be a hater, be a racist, but he wants to feel something else. So the point is, once you state it and get it out into the universe, then you have the opportunity to heal and to change. He didn't like feeling this way anymore. He hated that his sons, every time he mentioned the word nigger, would stop him and say, no, I don't agree with that. And so that's what it's about. When you're able to stand up for this new world and new idea, even in a group of people who represent the old world that you may hang out with, then you begin the process of your own personal healing. And that's what the film, to me, represents. An opportunity for people to heal surrounding you. Look, I could never like a white person because they enslaved our people. I mean, that keeps you enslaved. It keeps you in the shackles. And if you can realize that you understand that people's upbringing lend and create who they are, and that what they've learned and what they've heard and what they've believed from all that create who they are. But you don't have to be. I always say to people, you're not who you think you are. So you don't have to be that if you don't want to. The desire has to be there to afford you the opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want to smoke these cigarettes anymore. Once you say that, once you go, oh man, I want to give these up. This is the kind of attitude that we need to facilitate in this new world order. I'm Giancarlo Esposito, and you're watching Reelblack.